So, quick question. Is anyone here worried? Just these four? Oh, okay. Just this section and one person over there. Okay, a few others. Any reason? Any reason? Just nervous, election. Anyone else? What? Life in general. That's always a good one. Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. I included that in the election. I'm nervous about the air conditioning, which is clearly broken. So apologies. I'll share a little bit. I often get a little bit nervous, a little bit anxious. Maybe it's a Jewish thing, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's some kind of trauma passed down through the generations of anti-Semitism, of dislocation, of war. But whatever it is, it definitely runs through my family. And I come from a long line of worriers. We even have someone's job it is to worry and hold a list of the things we're worried about so that we don't miss any potential worries. And in fact, every time I get up here, there's a little part of me that gets a little worried. I don't know if this happens to others who get up and speak before other people, but there's a little excitement, a little nervousness. And just for me, everyone can be here pretty kind. Well, almost everyone. In any case, I still worry, will my jokes make people smile? But more importantly, will the words that I share really resonate? And will they help people find meaning? But before this becomes a little too meta for me, I want to share that I often become nervous for others. If I see friends or family or really anyone get up and do something, I'm nervous for them, especially like in a comedy club with a comedian. I'm like, please, just don't bomb. It's so very awkward, and I just feel so bad for them when it doesn't work. This morning's Torah reading, Parashah Shoftim, contains many laws, 41 to be exact, and they deal with all kinds of themes. How to cope with an unsolved murder. This was before Law and Order. How to deal with the laws of warfare. All kinds of judicial and military matters. It raises the importance of not following a false prophet, as Rabbi Willis taught, and the dangers of having a king or ruler with too much power. Most importantly, it's summed up with the pursuit of justice. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Justice, justice, you shall pursue. Looking at all these laws, we can see a common thread, building a just and moral society for all times, even in the most difficult moments, such as a war. I imagine Moses, delivering a speech just before the Israelites cross over to the Promised Land. You have to understand he's feeling a lot of emotions. He's excited for the people as they'll finally enter the Promised Land. But he's also, of course, sad that he himself will not enter. But underneath all these laws, I sense that Moses is having a little bit of anxiety. He's worried about what will happen to these people, basically his children. Will they be able to succeed without him? He's led them out of slavery. Just when they thought all was over at the Sea of Reeds, he led them through those waters. He took them to Mount Sinai. And when all was seen to then be lost after the sin of the golden calf, he remained with them and helped them get back on track. And so now what will happen? What will happen without him? Some of us might feel similar things as we drop our children off at school for the start of the new year, Or perhaps when we drop them off at college, will they succeed? Will they be okay? And worries can often morph into fear, as Dahlia spoke about in her thoughtful Dvar Torah. And worry, anxiety, and fear have been growing over the last number of years, and especially this past year. We're concerned on so many different levels, as many of you mentioned: the planet, its wars, the rise of dictators, the growth of fascist politics, renewed racism, growing anti-Semitism, terrorism in Israel, the loss of innocents, particularly in this Israel-Gaza war, and the other wars and fronts Israel is facing, and the list goes on. And of course, we're particularly worried about our hostages who have been incarcerated and mistreated for 337 days. Their lives have been in danger every single moment, subjected to unimaginable abuse and pain. In 1168, the great Jewish philosopher Maimonides explained the plight of a captive this way. He said, quote, "The redemption of captives receives priority over feeding and clothing the poor. Indeed," he wrote, "there is no greater mitzvah than the redemption of captives, which is known as in Hebrew, pidyon shvuyim. For not only is the captive included in the category of the hungry, the thirsty, the naked, but the captive's very life is in danger at all moments." After Shabbat, Saturday night last week, my son Ari called me from school and said, very simply, "Abba, Hirsch is dead." Now, I never met Hirsch Goldberg Pollen, but I feel as if I got to know him this past year. This young man, age 23, the same age as my eldest, traveled through many different circles and had family and friends right here in our area. His parents, Rachel and John, to whom we offer our deepest condolences, have been outspoken in their efforts to get him and all the hostages freed. He was a counselor at Gann Academy, our own local Jewish pluralistic high school, on their Israel trip in June of 2023, where he became friendly with some of our Emunah students. One, Ariel Laxell, wrote the following about Hirsch that she read at a vigil for him. On October 7th, Hirsch Goldberg Pollen attended the Nova Music Festival for Peace in Israel with his friend Aner Shapira. When Hamas terrorists attacked Israel, Hirsch and Aner hid with others in a bunker. The terrorists began throwing grenades into their bunker, and immediately Hirsch and Aner stepped into action, catching the grenades and throwing them back out until one came through and Hirsch's left arm was blown off. Aner was killed and Hirsch was taken hostage. His last communication to his family was a text message saying, "I love you. I'm sorry." This past Saturday, Hirsch's family confirmed his death. On Monday, the autopsy report indicated that Hirsch was shot in the head multiple times from close range, less than 48 hours before IDF soldiers rescued his body. Ariel continued, "Hirsch survived 11 months in captivity, suffering unimaginable conditions. All I hope is that he is finally at peace." Hirsch was one of my counselors on my high school senior trip to Israel in May of 2023. I'm eternally grateful to have met him in one of the last few moments of normalcy. Over the month we spent in Israel, I became closest to Hirsch out of all the counselors. It is not surprising that almost everyone in our grade felt the closest to him. I've never met someone other than Hirsch who can so genuinely and deeply connect with absolutely anyone about anything, including art, soccer, politics, and more. Our greatest fear for him was realized. May his memory be for a blessing. We can say amen. And of course, the anxiety still persists. Our prophets try to reassure us. As Dahlia read in her Haftarah, they bring us words of hope. And as we find ourselves less than a month before the Yamim Noraim, the high holidays, and their deep process of introspection as we become more and more aware of our own vulnerability, the tradition invites us to add psalms to our prayers to gird ourselves for this process. I want to offer a teaching that I found helpful. The great mystic and rabbi, the Ger Rebbe, comments on the first verse of our Torah reading, which says, Shoftim v'shotrim, you shall appoint judges and officers above us. He teaches that they're not merely people who can bring justice and protect us, but he sees these as terms that can also refer to eternal forces. He goes back to a verse from the book of Psalms and says that God v'lo anachnu, right, that we're created by God and not ourselves, that there is a spiritual beginning to the universe, but it's also that we are connected to God, v'lo anachnu, that God, in essence, flows through us. The Ger Rebbe speaks of internal forces, internal judges who can help us calm our thoughts, thinking of God and the divine's positive role in the world. And there are shotrim, officers, forces that can help us bring our bodies to do acts of goodness and acts of kindness. The Ger Rebbe somehow, 130 years ago, even before I think psychology and therapy, modern therapy, is aware of this mind-body connection so deeply, he's aware of how deeply connected they are. Calming one part can help the other part. We can help train ourselves, body, soul, and mind, to liberate ourselves from the compulsive thinking that worry can sometimes bring. And this can help us become more and more aware of the positive energy that permeates all. And that can release the stress that anxiety brings. So as we move forward, aware of our anxieties and worries, big and small, let us remember that God's presence, that divine energy that flows through the universe, also flows through us. We can open ourselves up to it. As we gather over the next month, may that flow bring us strength and help us overcome our anxieties. May all the hostages come home safely. Let us say, Amen.